caught my future mother-in-law laughing with her friends about how she landed a sap son-in-law and is set for life, made her realize she won't be able to leech off me. I, a 23-year-old man, am getting married to my fiancée GCE Sarah, who is 22 next month. We've been together for 2 years, and I just asked her to marry me last month. I'm head over heels for this wonderful woman and can't wait to spend the rest of my life with her. We come from very different backgrounds. I grew up in a working-class family, and I'm the middle child among my 2 siblings. We always had to work hard, living paycheck to paycheck every month. Sarah, on the other hand, had a much more comfortable upbringing. Her dad was a successful businessman, so he could provide her with everything. She was always surrounded by wealthy kids who threw extravagant parties and events. I put in a lot of effort to work my way through college and eventually landed a job at a prestigious company. My parents were truly proud of how I had built my life without ever depending on them to provide me with financial assistance. When Sarah and I met for the first time, it was at a mutual friend's party. Although we knew we were worlds apart, we still had an instant connection. We started going on dates, taking the time to truly understand each other, and with each passing day, we fell head over heels for one another. Once we started seriously dating, Sarah eventually invited me to one of her family's dinners so she could formally introduce me to her parents. That's when I had the pleasure of meeting her dad, Max, a successful businessman, and her mom, Annika, who was a dedicated stay-at-home mom. For the first time, Max seemed to appreciate the effort I had put into building my life. Annika, on the other hand, didn't seem to take a liking to me. It was quite evident that she looked down on my upbringing, and I didn't fit her expectations for the kind of son-in-law she had in mind. Her disapproval of me was far from subtle. It was painfully evident. She didn't hold back in making it clear that her only child deserved someone she considered better than me. She would often cut me off in conversations, and her disapproving glances spoke volumes, making it a challenging and awkward situation to navigate. In contrast, my parents couldn't have been more welcoming to Sarah. They embraced her with open arms, and my brothers took an instant liking to her. They would playfully tease her, telling her that she still had time to run away and escape from me, all in good fun, of course. It was heartwarming to see my family so supportive and accepting of our relationship. As time went on, I did my best to bridge the gap with Annika, hoping to win her over. I understood that our different backgrounds and expectations might take her some time to reconcile. However, our interactions continued to remain strained, and I could sense her disapproval lingering in the background. Despite this challenge, Sarah and I focused on building our own world together, filled with love, understanding, and shared dreams. We were committed to nurturing our relationship, even in the face of these familial disparities. We held on to the hope that as time went by, Annika might eventually come to accept and embrace me. Sadly, a year ago, Max passed away suddenly from a heart attack. While he left behind substantial wealth, there were also unexpected debts that needed to be settled. Annika had to make the difficult decision to sell her house and their car to cover these financial obligations. When the bank came calling, she had nowhere else to go, and has been living with us for the past 6 months. I didn't really mind having her live with us as I understood that she was going through a difficult time. I tried my best to make her stay as comfortable as possible, but Annika always found reasons to complain about around the house. Just for context, Sarah and I have always shared our responsibilities equally since we started living together. Given our careers, we take turns handling tasks like cooking, cleaning, and doing the laundry as part of our routine. It's a way for us to balance our busy lives and support each other in every aspect. My parents had taught me to be independent from a very young age, so I love doing my share of the household work. Annika absolutely despised this and would make her disapproval obvious throughout her stay. She made subtle comments about how a man doesn't belong in the kitchen or how a man shouldn't be doing household work. Usually I don't take it to heart, and I ignore it as much as possible. But over time, her comments have become progressively more hurtful and insensitive. I have talked to Sarah regarding this, and she agrees that her mother's behavior has been very difficult and hostile. Now on to the incident. I was recently promoted at work, hence I wanted to do something special to celebrate this milestone with our family and friends. We decided to host a grand event, inviting our close ones. My to-be wife also extended invitations to some of her rich friends, whom she hadn't seen for a while, particularly after her husband's passing. While I'm not one to flaunt things, I entrusted Sarah with the planning, and she went all out with the party preparations. On the day of the celebration, our house looked great. As the guests started arriving, Annika seemed to be having a good time reconnecting with her old friends. My fiancé GCEE and I were busy hosting our own friends and relatives. As the party was in full swing and the guests mingled and enjoyed the festivities, I couldn't help but notice that my to-be mother-in-law's behavior had taken a turn for the worse. She had a few too many drinks, and her comments started to get more and more inappropriate. She was bragging about how expensive everything around the house was, particularly the decorations and the food, in front of her friends. It was becoming increasingly uncomfortable, and I could see that some of our guests were taken aback by her behavior. My fiancé GC and I exchanged worried glances, unsure of how to handle the situation. We attempted to stay cool, as we knew Anika had been drinking a lot since the morning. At one point, we ran out of wine, so I dashed to the nearby liquor store. When I got back home, I found my fiancé GC outside on the lawn, enjoying her time with our relatives. I served them the drinks and then headed back inside to check on the rest of our guests. That's when I heard my mother-in-law loudly laughing as she chatted with her friends. I was about to enter the room when I overheard Annika mentioning my recent job promotion to her friends and went on to describe how she had been living at our place for several months rent-free, all because I was a naive person. She laughed as she continued to say that she had finally landed a SAP son-in-law and pointed out that I had been covering her expenses throughout this time while she lived rent-free in my house. Her words stung, and I was taken aback by what she was saying. Her friends were all laughing loudly at my expense. She then went on to say that she was set for the rest of her life now that Sarah was going to marry me in a few months. My emotions were in turmoil, and I struggled with how to handle the situation. It was disheartening to hear these derogatory comments coming from someone whom I considered family, someone I had tried my best to welcome and support during a difficult time in her life. As I stood there in the hallway grappling with a mix of anger, disappointment, and a sense of betrayal, I contemplated whether to confront her or wait for a more suitable moment to talk about this. My to-be mother-in-law then told her friends that because I came from a low-income family, I would continue to be a hard worker to her, and she had nothing to worry about. At that moment, I couldn't hear her talk that way any longer and made a decision to walk into the room and confront her right then and there. I wanted to make it clear to her that she wouldn't be able to take advantage of me anymore. With a wine bottle in hand, I walked into the room, and everyone fell into an awkward silence when they noticed my sudden arrival. Annika's laughter ceased, and her expression shifted from surprise to a mixture of discomfort and concern. She was worried that I might have overheard the conversation. Pouring wine for everyone and placing the bottle down, I faced Annika and began to speak. "Annika, I couldn't help but overhear your conversation with your friends," I said. "I stood there for a good 5 minutes, listening to you talk about how you've used my perceived naivety to your advantage. I want to make it clear that I welcomed you into my house with open arms and tried to support you during a difficult time, particularly because you had just lost your husband. However, making hurtful comments like this in front of our family and friends and laughing at my expense is not acceptable." The room remained tense, with a heavy silence weighing down on all of us. I could see that Annika was taken aback by the directness of my words, and her friends seemed equally uncomfortable. Just as the tension was at its peak, my fiancée GCC walked into the room, a puzzled expression on her face as she tried to understand what was happening. As I stood in the middle of the room with Sarah now in the room, I went on to explain to her what her mother had been telling people about me. Sarah's eyes widened in shock as she tried to comprehend the gravity of the situation. Annika's expression shifted from shock to embarrassment. I knew I wouldn't be able to forgive her for the way she had spoken about me. I asked Annika to immediately leave my house. Annika's eyes widened as she began to frantically protest, knowing that she had nowhere else to go. Sarah remained quiet as she understood how humiliated I had felt because of her mother. I remained resolute in my decision, emphasizing that I could no longer trust my to-be mother-in-law to be living with us. I suggested she could find accommodation with one of her wealthy friends, who had joined the party and were evidently relishing and laughing at my expense just minutes ago. Annika looked around the room helplessly as her friends avoided eye contact, and I couldn't help but smirk. I had reached my breaking point and was no longer willing to be used and taken advantage of. In that tense moment, Sarah, who had been taken aback by the unfolding drama, finally spoke up. She addressed her mother with a mix of disappointment and determination. "Mom, you've put us in an incredibly uncomfortable situation with your behavior today," she said. "We've always tried to support you, but this kind of treatment towards my fiancé GC is unacceptable." Annika, now caught between her daughter's disapproval and her own embarrassing behavior, began to realize the gravity of the situation. She had no easy way out and attempted to apologize, but I wasn't willing to be manipulated any longer. Still seething in anger and disappointment, I walked out of the room. The party soon ended, and my to-be mother-in-law apparently left to stay at one of her relatives' places. Since the incident, I've been receiving messages from people with a variety of reactions. Most of the guests seem to support my decision to stand up for myself, but there are some family members from my fiancé GCE's side who are telling Sarah that what I did was wrong and that I should not have humiliated her mother like that. My parents, who were present at the party, supported me 100% and had my back. The situation has caused a divide between our families, and the mixed opinions are adding to the tension. So I wanted to post here so I could get an unbiased opinion. Am I the asshole for confronting my to-be mother-in-law in front of everyone after I caught her making fun of me and letting her know that she won't be able to leech off me? Update 1. Thanks to everyone for your feedback on my last post. Many folks have suggested that this incident should serve as an eye-opener to the kind of family I would be marrying into. I have received suggestions that I should reconsider my relationship with Sarah, and whether her family's toxic behavior is something I'm willing to put up with in the long run. I've had some serious discussions with my fiancée Kiki regarding her mother's behavior, and she has apologized profusely for what happened. She assured me that she doesn't condone her mother's actions and is fully supportive of the decision I made. However, she also mentioned that she feels torn between her loyalty towards her mother and her desire to stand by me. We're planning on seeking counseling together to address this issue and ensure that we're on the same page moving forward. As for my to-be mother-in-law, she has been trying to reach out to me to apologize, but I haven't responded to her messages yet. I'm still processing everything that happened and trying to figure out the best way to move forward. I appreciate all the support and advice I've received from this community. It has helped me gain some clarity on how to navigate this challenging situation. Update 2. I've been getting a lot of messages asking for updates, so I thought I'd provide one. After taking some time to process everything that happened, I finally decided to sit down and have a conversation with my to-be mother-in-law. I invited her over to our house, and we had a candid discussion about the incident and how her behavior had affected me. She apologized profusely, acknowledging that she had been out of line and that her actions were inexcusable. She expressed genuine remorse for the hurtful comments she made and assured me that she would do everything in her power to make amends. I could see that she was genuinely remorseful and willing to work on repairing our relationship. I accepted her apology, but I made it clear that trust would need to be rebuilt over time. As for my fiancé GCE, we've been attending counseling sessions together to work through the issues surrounding her mother's behavior. It's been a challenging journey, but we're committed to supporting each other and building a strong foundation for our future together. Overall, I'm grateful for the support and advice I've received from everyone here. It's been incredibly helpful in navigating this difficult situation, and I'm optimistic about the road ahead.